your next mayor.
I am ready to be your next mayor.
The election is tomorrow.
The election is tomorrow.
I was born and raised on that.
I was born and raised on that.
Went to Love T. Nolan.
Went to Love T. Nolan.
Banneker. And graduated from Tri-Cities High School.
And graduated from
This is Mayor Kobi, a man of the people, the mayor of South Fulton, Georgia, known as the Blackest city in America with the highest percentage of Black people living there. He's in Ghana on a journey to connect the diaspora across continents. Hello, my name is Ivy Prosper, and I tell stories from Africa and the African diaspora. Today, I am really excited because the mayor of South Fulton, Georgia, known as Mayor Kobi, is here in Ghana. And I'm really excited because he has an important message. He is all about bringing the diaspora together with Africa, talking about how we can come together as a people, build our economy, grow. What can people in the diaspora do that can help people in Africa? What can Africans do that can help people in the diaspora? We're a community that has been disjointed for hundreds of years. And now is the time for us to come together. I'm really excited also because South Fulton, you may not know, is known as the Blackest city in America. Did you know that? I know I didn't until I recently heard about him. About a month ago is when I heard about South Fulton, Georgia, because I always thought of Detroit as being the Blackest city in America. So this is going to be an exciting conversation. He has a lot to say about his experience here in Ghana, as well as what we can do as a community to come together to build and grow. Mayor Kobi, Akwaba. Welcome to Ghana.
Aye. Is it
I
aye?
know. Welcome. Oh, you were starting to say Eye.
Aye.
That's like when I ask, how are you doing? If say
Okay.
Etiseng.
Etiseng.
Yes. So Akwaba
It's welcome.
is welcome. A lot of you watching may know Akwaba in Ghana is welcome. And they don't really talk about the response often.
Yes,
So
what
let's
is
talk
the
about
response?
it. So Akwaba, if it's an elder, like a grandparent or a parent, you would respond by saying, if it's a woman, yena.
Yena.
Yes. And if it's a man who's an elder, you would say yeja.
Yeja.
But if it's someone who's your peer, you know, or younger, you'd be like yenya.
Yenya.
Yes.
Yenya.
Yes.
Yenya.
Yes. Yes. So a lot of people don't know that. And then Akwaba, being welcome, is known around the world for Ghana. And it's Akan. So the Akan people are from the Ashanti region, the Eastern region, the Central region, and they're the ones who, the Akwaba comes from the Akan languages,
Yes.
the tree language. But then you have other regions that people don't often talk about, like the Volta region.
Ewe.
They would
I've met
say,
a lot of
the
them. They're from
Ewes would
Volta.
say Wezo for welcome.
Yes.
There's also the Gan people, and I always forget how the Gan say it. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that so that people take the time to learn about the other cultures in Ghana.
You gotta learn it.
Yes,
You gotta
yes.
learn it.
So I'm really, really excited to talk to you today. You are somebody who's making a huge impact when it comes to the Black community. You really are. When I first heard about you a month ago, I had heard your name before, and I had started following you on Instagram. But I didn't know a lot of details, and I didn't know that South Fulton was the Blackest city in America, like by percentage.
Yes.
I always thought that it would have been Detroit.
At one time it was.
Yeah, so when I was like, oh, really? That's interesting. So I'm glad to have you here today. I want to know first what you were doing before you got into politics, because I'm always curious as to what brings someone to go into politics, run for office.
You know, it's, I've always been in politics.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was a nurse, and then she retired as a VP for the biggest hospital system in Atlanta. So first of all, those of y'all who don't know, South Fulton is Atlanta's twin city. We're right next to Atlanta. And a lot of the people that you associate with Atlanta, from Ludacris to Candy and the Housewives to even Representative, the former Congressman John Lewis, all live in South Fulton.
So they're actually from South Fulton and not Atlanta.
They're actually from South Fulton. and not Atlanta. And they still live in South Fulton
Okay.
and not Atlanta.
It's like people saying they're from New York and they may be from like New Rochelle or something. They're not like
Yeah,
right
or
actually
people
in-
saying they're from Accra and they're, from the Accra region,
Right.
but they're not actually,
Right.
in the city. So my father was an accountant for every mayor of Atlanta from Maynard Jackson to Kasim Reed. So an interesting fact about Atlanta, a lot of people know Atlanta or the ATL, people call it sort of the capital of Black America.
Yeah.
It has had over 50 years now, over 5 decades of continuous Black leadership. It is the only city in America that has had 50 years of Black mayors. And in that 50 years, we have created the largest Black group of millionaires, the largest number of university students, Black university students, the largest number of Black-owned businesses, the world's busiest airport, and
Yeah.
the Olympics. We brought the Olympics. So
Yes,
all of that happened
yes.
under Black leadership. So that was it's not only part of my heritage, but I've found that it's also a part of my DNA. So the way that I ended up in Ghana, well, two things. On a political level, I've been traveling the diaspora, really promoting the city of South Fulton. It began as it really was born out of economic development. So our city was never really meant to be a city. We were a suburb. So we were like a suburb
Okay.
of
Atlanta.
Accra, of Atlanta. And we were unincorporated, and we just kept getting the short end of the stick from the county when it came to services, infrastructure, economic development. So 7 years ago, we basically became our own city. We took that leap of independence to become our own city. And then as I was trying to do economic development, I was going to these different conferences and I was talking to these different businesses. We have great demographics in South Fulton. Median family income is $84,000. It's higher than Atlanta, or it's high for the metro area. We have a 67% home ownership rate.
That's high.
It is one of the highest in the nation across all demographics.
Wow.
So 2 out of 3 people in South Fulton own their own homes. Yet and still, when I was trying to reach out to these Fortune 500 companies, it was like pulling teeth to get them to see the value in South Fulton. And I started hearing from, economic development directors and commercial real estate folks, that for decades, whenever we were trying to get a business to come to South Fulton, it was always this tug of war, was always this pulling of teeth to get them to come. And then they would come and open a store, and they would be the #1 store in the network. We have like the highest grossing Chick-fil-A, the highest grossing Arden's Garden, like whoever comes, it ends up being like one of the highest grossing in the region. And so then I said, I'm going to stop chasing people who are not interested in us, right? I'm going to do business with our people and people who are interested in us. So it really started with that. I really started looking at companies that, had a lot of business with Black America. They had a lot of Black American consumers. And I was saying, if you were selling to Black America, the place to be is South Fulton. And people started hearing this message. I started talking about, I was the one that coined the phrase, the Blackest city in America. I was doing research. I come out of the Black Lives Matter movement, and the movement for Black Lives. I was one of the first people elected I was one of the first activists that was elected out of that movement. And the way that it happened is I was living in Atlanta, the sister city at the time, and when this city formed, because I had been born and raised here, we had moved beyond just talking about police brutality to creating a holistic political platform. It encompassed housing, women's rights, education, all of these issues. And I went to my comrades and I said, if there were ever a place that we could roll this platform out, it's going to be in this new city of South Fulton. I was like, I didn't know it was going to be the Blackest, but because I grew up there, I said, it's going to be hella Black.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started doing my research, my demographic research, I found out through actually the Georgia Municipal Association, which represents all of the Georgia cities, that we were the Blackest. And so as I started to promote that, people from around the world started to invite me places. First, it was Business Africa in Paris. Then I got an invitation to Cali, which is the Blackest city in Colombia, which has that country has the fourth largest African population. And so then my thoughts about economic development became global. And I started saying, there is not just this Black American market, but there is a market of millions and millions of people in the diaspora. We need to be tapping in, to that. And so that's how I ended up traveling the diaspora. About 6 months ago, I took my African ancestry DNA test, and I found out that I was a Khan.
Ah.
And then I started seeing how this is actually in my DNA.
Yeah.
Everybody from Kofi Annan to Kwame Nkrumah, are come out of the Akan, and it's that's why I just think doing this DNA research is so powerful, because I realized that this interest in like the political uplift of my people extended beyond just the generations of family that I knew about to, all the way back here. And so I really had to come here and meet my ancestors.
When you say a Khan, I think like when I look at you, I know some guys from the central region who have like your facial features. Yeah, so you could be from the central region.
I really, in my heart of hearts, I really believe I'm Fanti.
And that's the central region, yeah.
Yes, I came here, trying to figure that out. I ended up with a group of brothers, Ewe brothers, who are great from the Volta region, and some people from the eastern region. But I was looking around the village and I was like, I don't see people who look like me. And I've been studying Akan religions, and the name for God, which really spoke to me, was Onyame, which is a Fanti word. And then I found out that they were from the sea. And the entire time I kept telling, my hosts, I need to go to the sea. I need to go to the sea. So when I found that out, yes, I believe those are my people.
That's good. It's always interesting when I meet people from the diaspora who come to Ghana for the first time, and they talk about having these like spiritual connections. They feel like they can tell where they're gravitating towards. When you got to the central region and you felt like that with the sea, was there anything in particular that was really like overcoming?
Oh my God, yeah. Of course I went to the slave castles, and I really thought I would be the most emotional there. But they took me to the river, the slave river where...
yeah, that's Asin Manso.
Asin Manso, and where folks take their last bath. And there's two sides to the river. There's the side where people took their last baths, and there's a side where people, take what they call their ancestral bath to return. And I was like, first, I need to go to this side. And I just wept. There's a video coming. But it was so heavy. You go down this path. They ask you if you want to walk it barefoot. I walked it barefoot, and this is my third trip to Africa, to the continent. My first trip was 30 years ago.
So where did you go 30 years ago?
South Africa.
Okay.
I was in university. I studied post-apartheid politics. I went when they were doing the Truth and Reconciliation. But there I really learned about, we in the West, we call it ancestor worship, but it's really just ancestor acknowledgement, ancestor awareness. And my mom passed my first month in office.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And thank you. And in my family, whenever somebody dies, they come and visit in our dreams. And so my aunts were all saying, like, she's gonna come and visit in your dreams. And about a month later, she started showing up, And sometimes, I will say she never talks, but it's just a presence. Like I'm there and we're hanging out, and I wake up in tears because I'm just like, she's, when someone's in the room, you might not be touching them, but you can feel them in the room. You know what that feels like. And since then, she has spoken to me in my waking hours, and other ancestors have spoken to me. And in that river, I heard so many voices. I received so much wisdom that things I can't even talk about. Like, I'm not ready to talk about yet. I visited Kwame Nkrumah's memorial, and I sat there for about an hour, and he spoke to me. I heard so many.
Wow.
I heard so many things, and so it's just the land, the earth is like just so rich. The soil is just rich with ancestors, and I get so much from them just being here.
There was a time when we went to the Slave River with some travelers who were in town, and there was a camera guy who was filming some of them that was hired, and he was standing in the water filming as they were walking into the Slave River. And the camera guy was like, he felt like something spiritual in the water for himself too. And he's gone in, and he at first was like, he doesn't understand the diaspora when they come and they talk about this feeling of ancestors and all that, because, he was born and raised in Ghana. But that particular day, he said he actually felt this heaviness of a spirit in the water. And like his legs, at a point, he felt like he couldn't move his leg, because he felt like somebody was holding his legs in the water.
Wow. So
there definitely is something that is very real.
Yeah, and there's even a science. I don't know if you know this field of epigenetics. It's a new field in science, but they talk about how trauma can actually change the shape of your cells. And they've studied descendants of slavery, that 400 years of trauma. Even, they started from a purely medical, a lot of the things that we suffer from in the United States, hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, a lot of that is traced to the genetics and the tension that we, and so it's literally trapped in our cells and has been inherited from just 20 generations of that. And you feel all of that in the river, and I have to say, I really did feel a release. I went, they say you can go stand in the river. I went all the way in. I went all the way in.
You went all the way in.
I went all the way in.
Oh, did you go? You went under as well?
Head
Everything.
first. I had to put my whole body in the river because I had to wash all of that off of me, and even now,
I've never gone all the way in. I've walked maybe like up to here, but I've not gone all the way in.
I mean, I think if you are an American African, maybe even a Canadian African, definitely, like you gotta go all the way in. You gotta get that stuff off of you. Like
It's like a moment of completion, or like a new beginning.
It's a baptism. It is being born again, and just to it's one thing to come home, and this is really a message that I would want to give to a lot of American Africans. I like to call them American Africans. Don't bring your stuff back here. You know, like I think therapists will tell you, like, when you go into a relationship, you don't bring your baggage into this like new relationship. And I think it's so spiritually, it is so critical. If you are coming back here to return, if you're coming back here to engage with this culture, you got to wash all of that off, you know, and just really let yourself be clean and open to all that this is, whether it's Ghana, Senegal, Liberia, you know, wherever your people are from. When you get off the plane, you got to get to a river and just wash all that off.
Wow, that's deep. And when I hear you talk, it's a reminder as to why a lot of the diaspora coming from the Americas, so North America and South America, choose to come to Ghana, because for some reason, it's like there's this spiritual thing that's hanging over this country, really. I know that there's a lot of West African countries that were part of the transatlantic slave trade, but Ghana had about 70% of the slave forts that people were shuttled out were actually on the coast of Ghana. There's only a few left now because a lot of them have fallen apart or been destroyed. But
Ghana has also been at the forefront of preservation.
Right, I was just going to say that. Yeah, preserving it so people can come and see the history. I think the sites also being declared heritage sites also helps in the preservation of them too. And then the fact that people tell the stories from generation to generations, because there's a lot of people who tell the stories and understand what happened. So I'm glad that you've been able to have this experience, because I think it helps in what you're doing. I had a whole list of questions I wanted to ask you, but I'm liking the way that this is just flowing as a natural conversation. What I want to know is, now that you've had this experience, what are you going to bring back to the community of South Fulton when you go back there and talk about what you've experienced in Ghana?
I'm going to tell you, like, I'm going to be raw. We're having this raw moment. There was a part of me that didn't want to go back. And I even remember when I was going to Cape Coast, they took me to the river first, and then they were taking me to the slave castle. And I said, oh, y'all are doing this wrong. Like, you should go to the castle first, walk back through the door of no return, back through the door of return, and then go to the river. This is the order that it's always done. And I will say, one of my guides made this really powerful point that, like, you need to be spiritually inoculated before you go to the slave castle, because it's so heavy, you know. And so this was like supposed to inoculate me, and I must say it did. Like, I felt things, but it didn't destroy me. Like, I had been looking forward to, longing and dreading, you know, seeing these places and seeing this door of no return. And I thought I would just crumple in the door and just, you know, and I was fortified. So I get it. But on my way there, when I was like, oh, I thought we were going to the castles first. They're like, no, we're going to go to the baths first. I was like, so you're going to make me go through the baths and then make me go through the door. You're going to make me relive this trauma that's already in my cells from 20 generations of enslaved folks. So in the United States, our elections, and let me say it's different in every state. It's crazy. It is one of the things, though, that I think makes American democracy so hard to corrupt. Though people are working really hard to do it, but that, like, elections are so individualized. Every state does it differently. Every counties and states, and some states can do. I mean, you know, it's just there's 10,000 different ways of doing it. But in Georgia, in my state, local elections are odd years. State and national elections are even years. So every year there's an election.
Oh.
Every year there's an election.
Okay.
It's good and bad. But my election for mayor, so our mayors are not appointed. I understand. I met with the mayor of Accra here, but our mayors are not appointed. We have to run for office, and our elections are in odd years. So my election is next year. I had not announced that I was going to run for office because my first term, particularly the first 2 years of this term, were just so horrible. I faced so much resistance.
Why do you think that is?
Because I'm a change agent, because I wasn't supposed to, no one thought I would win. On my council, there's seven of us, there's 8 with me, so it's a mayor and 7 council people. 5 out of the 7 council people publicly endorsed the previous mayor who I beat. Just no one thought I would win. He had been not only mayor for 4 years, but before that, when we were in the county, he was over that area of the county. So he had been in power
for a long time,
for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't want to do it again. I don't want to do it again.
So you're not going to run again? Or you're not sure? You're not announcing anything yet?
I will announce on the show I am going to run again.
You're going to run again?
I'm going to run again. I'm going to run again because I have to. I look at when I visited Nkrumah's memorial, one of the things that was whispered to me is that there's nothing that I am going through that great African leaders have not gone through for generations. There are certain people in America or the West will say, Africa's so corrupt, they have all these bad leaders. It's because we killed all the good ones, and I want to say
that part.
Western intelligence agencies, the CIA, MI5, 6, whatever, were instrumental in the assassinations of Sankara, of the ousting of Nkrumah. There's just, the list goes on and on, right? You can Google it. But there was a whole generation of leadership that was just wiped out by coups and assassinations. And some of the leaders that we in the West call dictators, people like President Rawlings, people like Rwanda's president, who's been there, whose name escapes me right now. He's been in power for 30 years. It takes decades to turn around a society that is just so set in its ways, even if those ways don't benefit the people, even if the people themselves are being oppressed. You can go back to the Bible. The Israelites, when they were leaving Egypt, they would encounter these hardships and they would say, "Oh, let's go back to Egypt. We had it better there." So it's liberating the minds of people is generational work. It's not something that you do in a term, and it's you certainly can't encounter hardships and think, I'm going to run off. I mean, there was a part of me, as I'm traveling the diaspora, I do know that whenever I leave this office, I will be leaving America. And so I was sort of shopping as I, went around the diaspora. I was actively thinking about leaving office and, coming to the continent next year, but everything, all of my ancestors are saying that I have to go back.
Yeah.
I have to return to my post. And so when I was, full circle, there was this additional level of psychological trauma that was happening when I visited Cape Coast, because I wanted to go to the Cape Castles, walk through the door of return, bathe in this river and just be home. And I was being taken against my will to the river and then to the castles and being sent back to this place that has been traumatic for me in this life, you know, not just like past lives. And I have to like face all of that, but I have a different knowing about it all now.
You know, I believe that you have a purpose, and that's why you're being told to return. Because I've seen how, I saw some videos of you online and seen how much you care about your community, and you've done things that surprised me that I wouldn't see other people in positions of leadership doing. For instance, I saw a video clip of you that there was a community, I believe, called Camelot.
Camelot.
And it was like,
it is the worst community in our city.
People are saying to, you know, tear it down, build fresh. And you decided to better understand the needs of the community by moving into the community. You
know, and I'm going to tell you, I did it on a dare. I was one of those people. I had visited it as a councilman. I was a councilman before, 4 years before I ran for mayor. I visited as a councilman, and I was like, this place needs to be torn down. And in the debates, when the issue came up, Camelot, ironically, because, you know, Camelot, people think of this like romantic.
Yeah, they think of like the Kennedys and all that. They use that Camelot term when they talk about them.
Yes, this fairy tale land.
Yeah.
And it was, at one point, it was the Triseco. Is that it?
It was like the Trisaco.
It was
in
the
Ghana.
Trisaco of our city.
Of Accra, yeah.
And all of the basketball players, you know, it was big there. All the basketball players and entertainers lived there. They had a gate and 2 pools, and it was just, you know, this incredible community. And
so what happened?
There was a lot of corruption that happened with the board that ran the areas. It was a HOA. Do you all have HOAs here?
No.
Okay. Don't get them. If anybody ever talks about creating neighborhoods with homeowners associations, they are horrible. Longer, no shorter, developers got into the pockets and then the legislation of legislators, and they came up with these ideas that instead of cities running the services, that these private gated communities would run their own services. And it's really good if you have $1 million wealthy communities, but it's not good for 90%, 95% of the population, because after a time, when major repairs need to be done, there's not enough money in this like private organization. There are things that only the government can do.
Okay.
So for example, Camelot has a $3 million water bill.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
so how would they take care of that?
They are not taking care of it. The water gets cut off. It's just horrible. And it's now the most blighted and the most dangerous community in our city. Mm-hmm. And so I was one of the people saying like, we just need to tear it down. But there was a woman named Candia Perry. Hi, Candia. She was fighting to get control of the homeowners association, and she was coming to the debates for mayor. And when the question came up, they were really pushing me to like take a second look at Camelot, because even though there's all of these horrors that are happening, mm-hmm. there are good, honest, hardworking people. You know, in any ghetto, in any township, there are people. It's mostly made up of just hardworking people, you know, who don't get paid what they should. And this is where they can afford to live. And she said, promise me that you will take another look. And I said, you know, again, ancestors, you know, they're putting words in my mouth. I said, I will live there for 6 months to a year before I make a decision.
So how long did you actually live there?
Wait, the night that I won the election, she showed up at my victory party and said, "We have a unit for you." First day in office, I moved in and I lived there for 9 months. And I finally ended up moving out, not because of the murders. The murders had actually, my presence, I think it was my presence, the murders slowed down. When I moved out, the murder rate tripled. Only 2 people were murdered while I was there, and another person was found dead of a drug overdose. But it wasn't the violence. It wasn't the rats that were in the walls. I had a dog, and I kept hearing this like thumping. I thought it was squirrels on the roof, and I came to find out it was like rats in the wall. Like it wasn't those things. It was the mold.
Oh.
Many of the basement level units are flooded, and we have central heat and air. We don't have these great individualized units. And so in the winter or in the fall, when it started to get cold and the air came on, I turned the heat on, I started getting sick. Yes,
wow,
and
it's blowing the mold throughout.
It's blowing the mold throughout. So I was on the top floor, but we share the central air with the people in all these, and I do think it needs to be torn down, and we need to have a courageous conversation as a city. And so when I talk about us being the blackest city in America, it's not just about cultural pride, although it is about that. It's not just about economic development, although it is about that. It's also about how we govern, right? I don't want us to just be intentionally black in our demographics. I want us to be black with intention in our policy making.
And how do you do that?
One of the ways that I do that, when I talk about us being the blackest city in America, it means that we're all family. So I relate it to the family reunion. I don't know if they do family reunions here.
Yeah, like tomorrow my family on my mother's side is getting together, like the day after Christmas. They're having a family gathering at my grandmother's sister, so she's my grand aunt. But in Ghana, if she's your grandmother's sister, everybody says she's your grandmother also. So yeah, there's gonna be a family gathering on my mom's side of the family. So yes, people do that here as well. But they don't necessarily call them family reunion the way they do in the U.S. with African American culture. But it's just like a family gathering is typically what they call it.
Do you know where it comes from?
I never sat down and thought about where it comes from.
It comes, as many things do, from slavery. So from the moment, you have to think about it. If we're a couple and we're enslaved and we have children together, our children get sold off, you get sold to another place. They put me with another woman, we make more children, they get sold off, she goes to another place. So the first thing that we did when we won our freedom was that we started looking for our families. We also built our own schools in our own neighborhoods. But one of the first things that we did is that we started looking for our own families. And so the family reunion became a way to reunite the family. And even to this day, you will go to an American African family reunion and you will see people that you've never seen. And people will be like, oh, that's your cousin. That's your aunt's sister's cousin. You know what I mean? And people show up and they
find out they're related to people they didn't know about.
They find their families.
Yeah.
They find their families. And so there's all of this. There's all of this protocol and these things that happen at family reunions. One is that you get a T-shirt. It has a family tree. It has everybody's.
Yes,
it
I've
has
seen
everybody's
those. People
name
make
on it.
T-shirts all the time. I see those.
Now, inevitably, and I'm sure that people across the diaspora can relate to this. Whether it's a funeral, whether it's a wedding, whether it's a family reunion, people are supposed to put money in to support the effort.
Yeah.
Everybody don't put their money in. You know. So here's how it works at our family reunions. Everybody may not get a T-shirt, but all the children eat.
That's true. Everybody eats.
All the elders eat first.
Everybody
you know, and so when I talk about us being the blackest city in America, the children of Camelot are our children. They've all got to eat, and it's just, you know, it's not even throughout our diaspora, it's just not even a question. Like nobody says, that's not my child, I'm not gonna take care of it. Someone is gonna take that child in. Somebody's auntie, nana, grandmother, grandfather, like all of the children are gonna be taken care of. And so when I talk about us being the blackest city in America, I am saying that we have to have this ethos that we are a family, that even if you do not know that you are personally related to someone in the ghetto, in the worst parts of our city, you are related to them because we're all part of this one family. And it's because it is going to take not only hundreds of thousands of dollars to demolish the place, but it's going to take millions to rebuild it. And it's going to take all of the people that are dispersed, that diaspora of people in Camelot, that get displaced, like we are responsible for them. And American government and capitalism teaches us that we're not responsible for them.
It's more individualist society.
It's more individual, and so. But when I'm saying we're the blackest city in America, I am calling us back to our root of like who we really are. I don't care what the government says. I don't care what a city is a corporation. It is literally, the city of South Fulton is a corporation. And there are some people that look at it as we've got to protect the corporation. I'm saying the city of South Fulton is a family, and damn the law, like we have to take care of each other. We have that responsibility. It's spiritual. It transcends law. It transcends economics. And if we do it, our ancestors are going to like give us the all that we need, all of the knowledge and ingenuity that we need to do it. And so that's a big part of what I am trying to infuse. I really want my legacy as a lawmaker or as an elected official to really be to change the thinking of our people and change the way that our government operates. And when I look at, again, when I look at people like Nkrumah, like Rawlings, all of Ghana's great leaders, all of Africa's great leaders, they, particularly Nkrumah, like really understood that we couldn't wait for independence, that we needed to be about our people. We needed to come up with African solutions to our problems now,
What are some of the ways that you think that the people of South Fulton can help with not only building their community, but with connecting with this side of the world? The way that you've come here and you've had the experiences, what are the ways that the people there can also come and connect with Ghana or other parts of Africa using their power? Because you talked about that they have one of the highest annual salaries, annual income, earning potential that can somehow connect with this side to help grow and build this side. What are some of the ideas that you have on bringing it together, bringing us together?
So, the transatlantic slave trade, like that triangle that took resources out of Africa and still takes resources out of Africa. And it took our most valuable resources, which are our people. And it's still taking them. There's still this brain drain that is happening, right? But in those routes, in all of those places that we were dropped off under a colonial empire, we sowed the seeds for a black empire. And so now we just need to reverse that route. We've got to bring our talent home. The United States has American Africans alone, not even talking about the whole United States, American Africans alone have $3 trillion of income and no resources.
Yeah, I always hear about the $3 trillion often in conversations about the power of the black dollar. But how do we engage people? How do we get people to come together and maximize that power?
Well, the first thing is, I think, it's the first thing is that, like, we have to rebuild the connection, right? Like these so my name is my government name right now is Khalid Kamal. Funny story, my birth name, I used to never say it, but
You're saying it?
I'm saying it now. My birth name was actually Timothy Bryan Stevens.
Timothy Bryan
Stevens. My mom gave me a good Anglican name, and she always said, I gave you a name that you could put on an application and get an interview. She was like, if you can get in the door, I know that you're smart enough to get a job, you can get an interview.
And it's a valid thing that a lot of people from previous generations did because of the fear of not getting a job because they see your name on an application.
Yes,
even the people who are the powers in the system.
Even in Ghana now, I see people, using their Anglican name. Everybody has an English name. And I changed my name when I turned 18. I said, well, I want an African name. My mom said, when you turn 18, you can do whatever you want. I changed my name to Khalid Kamal. Khalid was a great warrior at the time. I was studying Islam. He was a great warrior who defeated the Europeans in the not the Inquisitions, what were they? The Crusades. He was a great tactician, military tactician and warrior. Kamal I chose because I thought my people would be Nigerian and Yoruba. I met folks. There's a lot of Nigerians in the United States, particularly in the southeastern United States.
Nigerians are everywhere.
There's a lot of they're everywhere. There are a lot of Nigerians everywhere.
Yeah.
Y'all are killing it. y'all are really the new travelers.
They really are.
But I was studying Yoruba, so I took a Yoruba last name. But it was a made up. These are real names, but it was made up. And then when I found my ancestry, I've changed. I'm actually in the process now of changing my name to Kobi. I was born on a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I learned coming here is that just by people's names, you can know so much about them. Not just the day they were born, but like what area, like I was with these guys and this teacher was throwing out names. He said a name and people were like, oh, that's an Ashanti name. That's an Ewe name. That's a, that's a Ghana name. So just by your name, you knew the first thing that they did when they took us through that door is they stole our names. They stole our literal connection to the places. And they had it was so sinister because they knew that if two Ewe folks or two Fanti guys got together, a group of Fanti guys got together, we would band together, we'd be a unit of warriors, and that plantation would be done. So the first thing they did was they just severed us from all that history. So the first thing is that we have to reconnect. So the way that I found out, I took an African ancestry test, I paid for it, but I revealed my results. Every year, the president gives the state of the nation address.
State of the nation, yeah.
So now governors and now mayors are doing it. So every year we have a state of the city address. Mine was revealed to me because I actually wouldn't open the results because I wanted to experience it with the people in real time. But at that same state of the city where my ancestry results were revealed, we gave away 100 African ancestry tests. So the tests are coming, the kits are coming. I know people in South Fulton
are waiting.
They're waiting. We gotta get them all paid for. But we're going to have these initiatives where we're encouraging, our people, our heads of households to get tested and then return. We're working with Dr. Gina Page and a lot of great people. She's the head of AfricanAncestry.com.
Yeah, I've met her.
You met everybody. You met everybody. Has she been on the show yet?
I had her back in 2019.
Listen. I've made it. I've arrived. I'm on the couch with Ivy Prosper, y'all. But yeah, so we're working with them and some great Ghana Tourism Authority and some great folks to bring our people back so that they can feel, they can see and feel and all these connections. But then it just makes sense. The math just makes sense. We've got $3 trillion of income in America. Africa has 60% of the world's resources. I've met brothers here that own gold mines. I don't know anybody that owns a gold mine, in the States. So we just need to bring our talents, our resources, and invest them back into the continent and just reverse this triangle trade. And it's so simple. I don't know why we're not, doing it already, except that there is this link, that there are so many. I've talked to people that say, like, I'm an American, like I'm not African, like, there are people who don't get it. I had a council member say that I wanted to bring my entire council. We were actually we have an annual retreat. I wanted to bring them.
That would have been cool.
Yes, I was going to bring them actually to Rwanda. Paul Kagame, amazing leader, has done so much. He's turned
that country around.
Yes.
Yeah, to think that in the 90s, what they went through with
a genocide of 500,000 people.
And looking at how it is now.
They are the Silicon Valley of Africa. So I wanted my council to see that. And I had one council member say, oh, you want us to take us on an African safari. I was like, that's why you need to go. Because there are no safaris in Kigali. There are some, you got to go out into the countryside, but they are so far and ahead. I learned that during the pandemic, they had drones delivering medicine.
Yeah, that was being done in Rwanda. I think Ghana also had done a couple of the drone deliveries as well.
While we queued up around the corner for a pharmacy, they're delivering drones. Like, there's some ways that Africa is already the future.
Yeah.
The mobile pay that you all have here it's amazing. Like, I'm trying to get a Ghana number so I can see how this really works. Africa's the future in so many ways. It's the future of the workforce. By 2030, the majority of the world's young workers are going to be here. The majority of the world's resources are here. Everything that we use that powers these phones and these cars, the cobalt, the titanium,
comes from Africa. Yeah,
comes from Africa. We need to own these mines, and if we gotta come and bring some of these trillions and share in these minds with you, then that's what needs to happen. I will say this, because you sent me some questions, and there was this one question about what advice would you give to Americans coming. One is, wash all that stuff off of you, right? Because the other piece of it is, I've seen some Americans come here and they form these like enclaves of American Africans, and they don't really interact
with everyone. Yeah.
In the way that, and we gotta break out of that, because if we do that, you talked about Detroit. You thought Detroit was the blackest city. One of the things that's happening in all of these, we used to call them chocolate cities in America, DC, Atlanta. Atlanta at one point was over 70% African American. It's now under 50%.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It dropped?
It's under 50% African American.
I had no idea.
DC, New Orleans, LA, like all of these places, what's happening is, and it'll be different here. It'll be more of a class thing here. But what happens is, white people get tired of being in the city. They get tired of the traffic. They get tired of the crime. So they moved far out. But then they got tired of the commute. So they moved back. They moved back in, and there is a system of American apartheid that is both race and class based. Basically, working class and black folks have to live wherever white people don't want to live, and so our cities are becoming whiter. Interestingly enough, a lot of the people that have left Atlanta because of gentrification are moving to South Fulton. So South Fulton is getting blacker. More. We were 89% when I was in 2017, when I was sworn in on council as a councilman. By 2021, when I became mayor, we were 91. Now we're 93.
93%.
We're 93%. But I say that to say, so Americans will be very familiar with this term, gentrification. when I talk about like, don't bring your here, like, don't come and gentrify Accra. You know, like, don't be the oppressor. You know what I mean? Like, we can't become the people that we have despised.
It's interesting you say that, because it's something that some of the local Ghanaians have talked about, have said that they felt like this is happening a little bit with more diaspora coming. They feel like some of the prices are going up as a result of diaspora coming in more and more. And some of them feel like there's not enough interaction with the local community, and they would like to see it more. So I know there's some people who are intentionally trying to make an effort, but there are still some who do keep themselves kind of, like you said, in their own little enclave, their own little circles and cliques.
Yeah, you gotta be, I mean, you gotta be intentional. We've all gotta be like just intentional about what we do. So when we bring this investment back, we should be looking to partner. And there's a saying that we have in the movement, the people closest to the problem are closest to the solution. So don't think that just because you came back with this $1 million that you got the solution. You need to invest that money in local leaders who are closest to the solution and follow their, because we still got some decolonizing that we need to do up here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, find out what it is that they know, because they're on the ground. And then people can come from over there with their ideas, collaborate, and then come with the best.
Yeah, I mean, we know some things. Obviously, Black folks have had to be, in the United States, have had to be very creative just to survive. So we have an intelligence, but there is an ancient intelligence here.
Mm-hmm. So while the people taken to the Americas were, captured, enslaved, mistreated, indoctrinated, making decisions based on fear, based on how the slave masters treated them, separated, all that stuff. While people on that side of the world were living that trauma out, people on this side of the world were colonized. So there's a lot of things that, Africans themselves went through with the colonization of European countries, the British, the Dutch, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the Germans in Namibia. Like, there's so much that Africans went through on this side, while people in North America, South America were going through their own traumas. So we have traumas on both sides.
Yes.
And we're all learning to grow, to make changes, change our mindset. And it comes through reading and learning and knowledge and history. And, I've read a few things, saw a few videos of you talking about, books that, had impact on you that you learned from. What book do you think we all need to pick up and read that can help us in our mindset to grow in a way that it can help us with reconnecting with each other and with building ourselves as communities on both sides of the world?
Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. She is a Black psychologist. Her name is pronounced DeGruy. It looks like DeGruy, so it is D-E-G-R-U-Y, but the Y is silent. So post-traumatic slave syndrome. She really, she talks a little bit about epigenetics, about how some of these survival mechanisms and how some of this trauma actually gets encoded in our DNA. She talks about things that we do today that really come out of slavery that we just don't even realize are unconscious responses. So, for example, and first I want to say, it is so important because I think that we as American Africans can romanticize Africans to say, you all didn't have to go through what we went through, but you went through your own stuff, and I think that's important it's important to understand, because sometimes you're going to come here and you're going to run into that same, this same post-traumatic slave mentality. And you're like, why are y'all acting like this? Y'all weren't enslaved, but you were, just in a different way. In a different way. One of the things that she talks about is how important discipline is for our children. Like you will never see an African child, whether it's an American African or a Ghanaian African, you'll never see them acting out in a store, right? We don't allow that. The other kids can have tantrums and run around the store and do all these things, and it comes out of years of physical violence, where if a child was unbehaved, they would be subject to violence, either by colonial masters or slave masters. So it was very important when you were out in public that you followed the proper protocol, that you listened to your parents, because they were there to keep you safe. And we still do that with our children now. There's another thing, and this one was like so crazy. She was talking about how parents will sometimes be what's the word? Be disparaging of their children, you know, like they would, you know, like a white mother might be like, oh, look at my child is like, you know, she's so smart, she's making all these A's in classes, she's doing X, Y, Z, and a black mother will be like, well, you know, my child is really smart, but they're really hard-headed and they don't listen, or, you know, there's this disparaging language, and you think, okay, well, that's out of this negative self-image that we have about ourselves. It's actually a protection mechanism, because in slavery, and probably also on the colonial side, the smartest children were taken from their mothers into the house. So you would disparage your child so that
They don't get taken away.
they don't get taken away. They don't get too much attention. So that even this way of like not calling attention to yourself, being disciplined, being quiet, not rocking the boat, so much of those are survival mechanisms that were required for the best and brightest amongst us to survive. And when you understand that, Nelson Mandela has this quote about, you know, not dimming your light so that other people feel comfortable around you. And it's now that we're past survival, and you know, if you think about this happens to refugees, it happens to people who are released from prison. You're still in this survival mode, even when you're completely free. And so you've got to sort of decolonize your mind so that you can maximize the full extent of your powers and your potential. And so yes, that book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, everybody should read it. No matter what side of the Atlantic you're on, we are all carrying trauma that we need to unpack and release.
That's a good one. Thank you. I'm going to look for it myself.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
This has been a really great conversation. I want to wrap up on a light note.
Okay.
You've been in Ghana.
Yes.
Now, for the first time, you've been here for some days. What is your favorite food so far?
Ebenubenu.
Okay. Ebenubenu. Yes.
It's you know, people, I will say, I know I'm going to get in trouble. Of the jollofs that I have had, I do like Ghanaian jollof the best.
Okay.
I
all
do.
right.
I haven't had Senegalese, and I understand that they've invented
Yes.
jollof. So I've got some more jollofs to try. But yeah, Ebenubenu is that spinach soup. It's so good. Yeah.
I like red, which are the beans with the fried plantain.
Okay.
I also like contomre, or they sometimes call it palava sauce, which is like the green leaf stew.
Okay.
I like it with boiled plantain.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Around the West Indies, like plantains are huge.
Yes.
I was never a fan. Y'all have these plantain chips here.
Yeah,
They sell
people
them
love
inside.
plantain
Oh my
chips.
God, they're so good. And I don't know, are they sweeter? They're different than the ones in the West Indies.
I love plantain. Like boiled, fried, baked, grilled. I love plantain.
You got me talking about food now. Okra stew.
Okay.
Okra is huge in the South.
Yeah,
Too.
yeah.
And I would say like it's so crazy traveling around the diaspora. I see all of these dishes that we have. You know, there's one in Jamaica. They make a gumbo, but they make it with octopus,
Ah.
and they call it sea cat. But
Okay.
it's octopus and rice and tomatoes. It's gumbo, and I was like, oh, this is gumbo.
So it's just like the one from the Louisiana, New Orleans.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I've been looking for. We call it sorrel or soursep.
Yes.
But it's a hibiscus drink. You all call it.
We have it. We call it sobolo in Ghana.
Sobolo.
Sobolo. And speaking of sobolo, I have to quickly say thank you to Sai Wine Cafe for letting us use this space. It's a great place to come, have some wine, relax, chill. And we're going to make sure that he gets some of that sobolo, which is a hibiscus drink that's very popular here in Ghana. So our waitress is going to bring him a glass of fresh sobolo.
Thank you. I've been waiting for days. Sobolo. I didn't know where can I get this other than this incredible cafe, and it is incredible, by the way.
You can get it at a lot of places. A lot of places sell sobolo, and people make it different. Some people add a lot of ginger. So sometimes you sip it and then you taste so much ginger in it. And then some people are heavy on mixing pineapple to sweeten it. So it depends on who's making it as to how they do it. But, I like it sweetened with the pineapple in it. And then some people don't put the pineapple at all. There's a brand, I think it's called Men's Dough, and they have a version that has mint added to the hibiscus as well, which is gives it this refreshing kind of
I like the straight
flavor.
Hibiscus.
So yeah,
This has got a little ginger in it. It's got a little kick to it.
yeah. So I love it too. I love that drink. This has been a great conversation. I've loved chatting with you today. Learned so much about him. Go look him up. Just type Mayor Kobi, South Fulton in Google, and so much stuff about him pops up. So many of the amazing things that he's been doing with the Black Lives Matter movement that he was working with, as well as what he's doing in office today, the way he really gets down and helps with the community. I've seen so many clips where you are out there with the people. You're not just somebody who's an elected official who's just well, I'm the mayor, so, I'm here and you're there. No, you are I'm in there with you. I am your elected official, but I'm here to serve the people. That's how I see you as a leader with the way that you are.
Well, I say I don't serve you, but I serve with you. My brand is actually Kobi Cares, so you can find me on all the things, TikTok, Instagram. They're talking about banning TikTok in the U.S.
They've been talking about that for a while.
Right,
we'll
but
see.
Kobi Cares or Kobi.cares is where you can find me.
Easy. See, Kobi.cares, find them everywhere on social media. Thank you so much for being here today. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
It really has. And you have how many days left in Ghana?
6 days.
Okay.
Now I'm working on my tweet. Is it Mita Washe? Is that how you say?
What are you trying to say?
Thank you.
Medase.
Medase.
Yes.
Medase.
Medase is thank you in Akan. Since you are Akan.
Thank you. You're teaching me. You're teaching me.
Medase. But if you were Ewe, you would say Akpe. That's thank you.
Akpe.
Yeah. But yeah, Medase is nice and easy since you.
How many languages do you speak?
I speak English and Tree. I know a few words here and there in Ewe because I'm trying to learn it because that's the language that my father's family speaks because my father was Ewe. He's late. He passed away 2007.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. But his side of the family is Ewe. So I'm trying to learn some words, but it's hard. Ewe is one of the hardest languages in Ghana to learn. Even Ewe people I know have said if you didn't learn it as a child, it's difficult learning it as an adult.
Adaponchie, what is that? Is that Ewe? Adaponchie? How do you say goodbye or good morrow?
Ichre, right?
In Chi?
Yeah.
No, in Ewe.
Oh, in Ewe.
In Ewe.
Our camera, the camera guy is Ewe, so he's gonna give it to us right now.
Hey, that you're gonna put me in trouble.
No, you're not saying it right.
Let's ask her. Come. Our wonderful server here is Ewe. Please come. So how do we say?
Goodbye or good morrow.
Goodbye. See you tomorrow.
Yes,
Goodbye.
Mi
Adogo emegbe.
Mi adogo means we'll meet again.
Mi adogo
Mi adogo.
emegbe. Did I say it right?
Emegbe, yeah.
Mi adogo emegbe.
Yes.
Mi adogo
Mi adogo
emegbe.
emegbe.
Yes, we
Mi adogo
My Ewe
imebe.
people, don't laugh at me. Mi adogo. Yeah. She's laughing already. Look at that.
Mi adogo imebe. We're learning. We're learning.
We're learning.
My driver, who's Airway, he taught me Adaponchie. Adaponchie.
Adaponchie?
No.
Oh,
Maybe you're not remembering it right. That's possible. Because I know people have said stuff to me. Then I go.
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, Adaponchie.
But that's tree.
That's tree.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like,
Adaponchie. I'm learning. I'm learning.
willing tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, Adepanchie.
Adaponchie.
Let's say, I don't even know how to directly translate it.
Because sometimes there's not direct translations for things in languages.
It's basically like God willing tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's he told me it meant good morrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So say it again.
Adepanchie.
Adaponchie.
Adepanchie.
Adepa enchie.
Enchie. Adapa enchie. Do you know that one?
That's
So, as we wrap up, language is something that, of course, was taken away from people in the diaspora. And I know that there's a lot of diaspora looking for opportunities to learn. There is a place called the Tree Learning Center that teaches Tree. They do it virtually if you're looking to learn. So a lot of the diaspora, before they come to Ghana, they sign on with the Tree Learning Center and they do virtual sessions teaching them how to speak the language and how to read the language as well. They're very diaspora friendly, so it's an opportunity that you can take to learn from them. Again, it's called Tree Learning Center, which is TWI if you don't know the spelling. You can find them on social media, on Instagram. You can just type Tree Learning Center in Ghana and it'll pop up and then you can learn from them right there. And you being the Akan man,
I gotta learn my
You
tree.
can
I gotta
learn-
learn my Fenty.
yes,
my
I think they also teach Fanti as well.
Okay, gotta learn my Fanti.
Yeah, they also teach Fanti as well, and because Fanti has similarities to Tree, just a lot of different pronunciations, but there's a lot of similarities between the two languages. Yeah. So.
But tree is a good one to start with.
Yeah, Tree is. I think 60% of the country speaks Tree. People speak Tree across the country, so. You can go almost anywhere and you find somebody who can speak Tree. But everybody speaks English because it was a colonized British country before, so the majority of people speak English. But when you're in remote communities, their English might not be high level because they revert to the local language in some of those communities. But when you're in places like Accra, a lot of people are speaking English.
I've been to those communities and their English is better than my tree. So, y'all are doing it. Y'all keep doing it.
It's true. It's so true. Their English is better than some people's Tree. So I get it.
Everybody keep learning.
That's it. Keep learning. And on that note, keep learning. Find him, Kobi.cares on social media. And if you liked this video, don't forget to share it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. If you have any comments, leave it in the comment section. If you're having a struggle to find him, I'll actually put it in the description box so you can find it and just tap it and I'll pin it to the top of the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I really appreciate you. Again, my name is Ivy Prosper, telling stories from Africa and the African diaspora. I'll see you next time.